Hello and welcome to the Halloween edition of the SIG Cluster Lifecycle meeting. Today is the 31st of October, 2017. We're going to get started today by talking about 1.9 features. So last Friday, I forgot to mention this last week, but last Friday was the feature freeze deadline for 1.9. I pinged Lucas over Slack. We went through the feature list and tried to kick things out of the 1.9 milestone that shouldn't be there. And pull stuff into the 1.9 milestone that maybe was still marked as 1.8, but needed to be addressed again during this release. So if you pull up the query that I have linked in the notes, there are 16 issues assigned to our SIG. There are a couple of COPS issues that are still assigned to 1.8. I poked Justin about those last week and haven't heard back, but I expect those to get either moved to 1.9 or further. And if you look at 1.9, there are 9 issues we have for 1.9 right now. So we've sort of passed the feature freeze deadline at this point, but I think we could chat nicely with Anthony and Jace if there's stuff we still need to squeak in. If people are looking at the list, is there stuff you see that's missing? Does the stuff that's there look correct?
I'm trying to get a query that's sane. 1 second, because the link.
Okay, I'll modify the link for just 1.9. The link is everything right now. You can just modify the milestone. All right, click on the link again. And while people are pulling that up, I will just mention that this is a short release cycle due to the large number of holidays during this part of the year. And so code complete is scheduled pretty soon. It's less than 4 weeks away on November 22nd. So I think, if you're working on something, we're trying to shoot to get it wrapped up pretty quickly for the 1.9 cycle.
So if you have any prods that you can pull or levers you can pull on the SIG node team, I'm going to squat down there today to try and see if I can get review bandwidth from Yuju. But I need to get that stuff reviewed and just thumbs up from them at this point.
Okay. Yeah, it looked like the proposal had a general thumbs up, so I think we're hopefully in pretty good shape there.
Yeah, I addressed all the comments in the original PR. There's some inner stuff I need to deal with the kubelet because it's kind of difficult to follow how it actually does its updates. So I need a little bit of guidance from Yuju there. Outside of that, the other pieces are all in place. So.
Well, that was the next agenda item, which was the Bootstrap checkpointing. So Tim just gave a brief update on that. Is there anything else you wanted to mention?
Nope. I just need I needed SIG-Node folks to review. That's about it.
Okay, cool. So Jace is adding a couple things in here, which is planning for 1.10 in light of this proposal, which he linked to, which I have not yet seen. Have folks seen this proposal before? It's called Value Delivery Management in the Kubernetes Ecosystem.
Yes, architecture for the win.
Cool.
No, actually, this is an attempt to reboot the PM process. Essentially, that the features repo feels like a deprecated, clunky thing that doesn't really serve us, and so this is essentially an attempt to try and empower SIGs to do their best work by taking the burden of the project and other types of management off of their plate and help them with a facilitation role. So it's basically, instead of trying to have somebody from the SIG try and be on board with everything SIG PM is doing, it's like, hey, let's give somebody to the SIG from SIG PM. It's not revolutionary, but it's something that needs, I think, to be done. And so consequently, SIGs own their own feature backlogs, and there isn't a centralized point of failure. You guys certainly got a handle on what you're doing. So in that spirit, what I want to do is, and I will probably volunteer to do this myself, for 110, I would love to facilitate a planning session with you all. So basically, I can do whatever serves the SIG best in terms of organizing a document or helping prioritize what you want to work on, writing up an issue in the SIG cluster lifecycle domain, so we have a tracking issue for what you're going to deliver in 110. And just all that stuff, basically trying to make your lives easier so you can focus on code instead of administrating.
Would it be possible to pilot an idea of potentially using a Kubernetes project? Because a lot of our stuff will span components and repos and everything else, but they're all in the Kubernetes proper domain. And instead of us trying to create yet another features repo item, which doesn't get maintained very well and tracked, if we could actually assign the project as part of the issues and PRs and use the process that exists there. I don't know if this will work for everybody else, but I'm just trying to throw out an idea.
That's it. In fact, as far as I'm concerned, after 1.9, I'm pushing hard on this, that the features repo will be completely deprecated. So those things should be tracked in however is best for the SIG. The thing that we want to make sure is that if there's deliverables for the release, like release notes or documentation or whatnot, that you have some way to track that, and I would love to experiment with what works best. And that's a great suggestion, and I actually used that myself for SIG release for the release process last time, and Anthony is doing that for this release as well. So we're moving toward a much more GitHub centric thing and not having duplication elsewhere.
Tim, do you know?
Just one concern about the projects in on GitHub. The only problem that we have, they're not visible to anybody else outside of Kubernetes organization. So it's really unlikely for us to use the project-wide projects on GitHub. We may try to use them for some repo, like for the features repo or for the community repo, for some extra repos, but not the organization-wide.
Yeah, I hadn't envisioned it would be an org-wide repo project board. Was that what you're thinking, Tim? Because I thought it would be actually Kubernetes.
I thought it would be, it would have to live across KK, at the level, because if we split use a kubeadm repository, then we'd have a problem, right? I think for now, until we split, you could probably use KK as a project.
That's what I imagined, was that there'd just be an issue in Kubernetes, and basically if you guys had 3 things that you're going to deliver, the same 110, 3 different work items, and you would just have an issue for each one, and that would be essentially how you track the work.
I mean, that's largely the same thing we're doing with the features repo, because all of our individual tracking issues for kubeadmin are already outside of the main repo. So unless we have an org level project, things like kubeadmin, like cluster APIs outside the main repo from the start. So like a lot of the things we're working on are not necessarily in the main repo. We may have dependencies there. So like the code that Tim is writing for the bootstrap checkpointing in 1.9, as a good example, that's in the main repo. So you could create an issue in the main repo saying we want bootstrap checkpointing. But when you say like kubeadmin self-hosting or kubeadmin HA,
right,
all those issues and design docs and so forth are going to the kubeadmin repo. So you wouldn't be able to have sort of cross tracking against those unless the project was across the whole org. And it's going to get more complicated as we shake out sort of the incubator process, because Kubernetes incubators are even a different org. And if we decide to stick, things outside of the main Kubernetes org, it's going to get tricky.
That's a really good point. Okay, well, I'll take that as a to-do then, and we'll figure out what we can do there. I mean, worst case, to me, having stuff in Kubernetes at least is not, it doesn't feel as disconnected as having a features repo, but maybe not ideal. So,
yeah, one other thing to consider is at some point we might want to start divorcing release timelines. So right now, kubeadmin gets released with the Kubernetes release, right? And that's
right.
The code is tightly coupled. It's in the main repo. That's sort of the only way to do it. But as we move it out, we might want to consider releasing it at a different cadence, where we can release it whenever we want. And like release 5 of kubeadmin supports 1.11 of Kubernetes, right? So they don't have to be released as the same binary or even through the same build process in the long run.
Right. Yeah. And sort of more like the Helm-like, distribution. So.
And at that point, I don't know how many other SIGs will be able to do that, but we could even like sort of divorce our feature tracking and our backlog from the 3-month cadence of the Kubernetes release cycle.
Yeah.
Nice, because we could make ourselves more agile.
Agreed. I think that this is a step in that direction, is certainly to have SIGs on their own quote unquote feature backlog. And And I do want to stop thinking of things as quote unquote features, because they're really not. It's really enhancements into the Kubernetes ecosystem. So kubeadm is a major crown jewel of the ecosystem. So it's like saying something additional enhancement to kubeadm as a feature may or may not be accurate. So
in terms of the planning session, in the past we've done sort of the next round of planning pretty late in the release cycle. If you want to pull that earlier, if we think a lot of people might be out in December, it seems like the most likely dates for doing it are the week of November 13th, which is the week before Thanksgiving, or the week of November 27th, which is the week after Thanksgiving and the week before KubeCon.
Okay.
Most people will be around on one of those weeks. And so if you want to pick which week you want to do, we can either co-opt this meeting, or we can have a separate breakout meeting for that week. Whatever.
Okay. Yeah, I'd imagine that it would happen somewhere in the code freeze realm, just because then in theory you've got a little more bandwidth to devote to project type stuff. So, but that's as SIG organizers, why don't you decide what works for you, and I'll just be here. I will serve however I need to make that happen.
Okay, I'm not sure all of the stakeholders are here today, and I'm not sure the best way to gather that input. I guess we could set up like a quick Google form or something to have people vote on which week they think is better. I would propose we do it during this meeting, because I think this meeting has the highest attendance level of any of our SIG meetings, and if we do a one-off, it's going to be hard to schedule at a time when everyone can be here. So I think we'll just set up a vote between the 14th of November and the 28th of November during this time slot.
The 14th or the 28th, you said?
The 14th or the 28th, yeah.
Okay. I'll get that together,
Okay.
and send it to the mailing list.
Oh, excellent. That's one less thing for me to do. Thanks, Jay.
Yeah, no. Got to take this all the way. So, okay, I'll take care of that. Google vote. Okay. Cool. Then I had the next item on the agenda was just to make sure that I think we did a really good job in 1.8 keeping cluster lifecycle and the main release cadence sort of lockstep. And the way we did that was Lucas had that issue that we were basically tracking with, could be blocking, non-blocking, depending on how it went. I would love to see that created again for 1.9, just so we can stay on the same page about what the status of it is, without having to necessarily traverse into the Kubernetes repo, if that's okay.
Yeah, that sounds great. Is that something we should do now, or do you want to do that closer to the release?
Probably closer to the release. Otherwise, it's just going to be noise, and definitely by code freeze.
Yeah, I mean, I think right now that issue would just be a placeholder, because we wouldn't know what to put in it yet,
Right.
like what we think is blocking, right?
Yeah.
I think it was useful last time because Lucas said these are the 5 issues in the other repo that we need pointers to.
Yeah.
So once we know what those are, we can create an issue.
Yeah, that'd be great. And then just drop a link to that into the SIG release channel, so that we got it. And I'll make sure that winds up in our regular meeting minutes for the release burn down, so that we can review it and make sure that everything's on track.
Excellent.
Cool. That's all I had. Thank you.
Thanks, Jace. Let's see. We're sort of out of agenda items. It's still pretty early in the meeting. Is there other stuff that people want to discuss?
I saw Fabrizio had joined. I don't know if folks have had a chance to give feedback to his document at all or not.
I took a look at it last week. It looks great. Looking forward to seeing it implemented.
There's a couple PRs I'm on the review chain for. I'm not going to be able to get to it till later this week, but that'll be the plan.
Excellent. I can give a quick update on the cluster API. We had another breakout meeting last week where we spent some time reviewing the proposals for both the machine object and also the sort of control plane at the top level. So we walked through those a little bit, and I guess another PSA, if people weren't at the community meeting last Thursday, this Thursday, after the community meeting, there's a SIG cluster ops meeting where I'm going to give a presentation and demo of whatever we have so far for the cluster API. So if people are interested in joining that, the goal is to try to gather sort of cluster operators and get some feedback from them in terms of requirements, in terms of what they think would be useful for the API to support. So we have a notion based on our experience at Google running GKE of what we think the cluster API should do, but we want to sort of get input from people that are running in lots of different environments to make sure we're actually meeting everyone's needs and not just the needs that we know about. So if people are interested in that, that's SIG Cluster Ops, which is Thursday at 1 p.m. Pacific time this week. All right, anything else? It's very quiet today. Is everybody excited for Halloween?
I have to give a talk today, and I have a bag full of candy and a banana suit, so look for Twitter.
That sounds exciting.
I think people most probably didn't realize what the meeting time is changed, especially the one who is in Europe.
Oh, that could be. Yeah, because I guess the meeting was scheduled for 9 a.m. Pacific, but there was daylight savings in Europe, and so people might be showing up in an hour, is what you're saying, right? Actually, that begs the question. So tomorrow's breakout meeting for kubeadmin looks like, since Luke created it, is also shifted an hour later. Do people want to do that at 9 a.m. Pacific as we normally do, or do it an hour later? Yes, by people, I'm mostly looking at Tim, because I think you're the main person here who regularly attends that meeting.
I should not have a problem going to that.
At 10? Do you want to just leave it at 10 then?
That's fine with me, unless other folks wanted to shift it. Let me check real quick here. I don't think I have anything earlier on that morning, so it'd be fine if folks did update it or not. So
okay, I'll put out a message on Slack and see if people want to keep it at the current time or move it up. All right, well, that was a good point. I will dial back in at 10 o'clock this morning and see if people show up for the 10 o'clock version of this meeting, and point them at the recording. And I won't record that meeting. We aren't going to do this again, but just to let people know that the meeting's already happened. And if there's nothing else, I think we can call it for today and give people some time back.
I came in just in time.
Yes, just in time to leave. Excellent. All right. Thanks, everyone. I'll see you next week or tomorrow.